So the motor for the Dual milling machine is pretty much ready to go back together. Our new bearings came in the other day. In a previous video, we pressed off the old ones that were damaged, cleaned everything up, and I think we're ready to pretty much reassemble this thing. We got to find the pieces that we need in order to press these bearings on without damaging them. Then we'll reassemble this and it'll pretty much be ready to be put back on the mill. So I got a mix of bearings here, SFK, which is American made, and Portugal, FAG. Both really good quality bearings. The small one is for the rear of the motor, and I deviated a little from the original bearing setup. The rear bearing on this rotor had one of the rubber shields removed because there was a grease fitting that was not, you couldn't even access it. So what I decided to do is just leave the back bearing completely sealed because the front one's completely sealed and there's no way to grease it. So can't grease the back one, can't grease the front one. But these should last. I mean, they'll last my lifetime, I'm sure. So we'll get the things we need together to get these pressed on that rotor. So we're pretty much set up here, I think. We're going to be pressing this inner race onto the shaft here, so ideally we want to press on that inner race. That way we don't stress this bearing. You don't want to press on the outer race in this configuration anyway, because you transmit all that force through the bearing, through the balls of the bearing, potentially damaging the race, which I've done on a wheel bearing years ago. I had to immediately replace it. So we're not going to do that. Good to have a variety of pipe sizes at the press. That way you're covered in a lot of setups. Let's see if we can't get this thing pressed on there. That went good. Let's see if we can get the other side to go that easy. So this rotor has a really nice lead-in machined to the actual major OD of the bearing. So it's got a slight taper that goes from about here to right where the major OD of the bearing seat starts. And that's really nice when you go to get a bearing started, because some of them have sharp ledges right at the transition of sizes, and they just sometimes get canted when you go to press them on. So that's nice. It's on the other side as well. There we go. Bearings are on the rotor. Is that gonna work? Yes. got to press the rotor into the end bell. So here I'm actually loading this bearing, actually pressing through the balls of the bearing in order for this thing to be pressed into this end bell. A little heat would have been the best thing to do because you could probably just dropped it right in there, but I couldn't find my torch at the moment, and these end bells fit a lot looser than the actual bearing fit to the shaft, so you know, that little bit of pressure wouldn't hurt anything. I've seen equipment designed in a way that really I don't see how you would avoid not pressing through a bearing, and to a certain point, you know, a little bit of pressure won't hurt anything, but you start bringing hammers and stuff into the mix and, you know, giving those really heavy spike loads, and that's where you damage your bearings. Just a nice press, and those bearings can handle a lot more axle than what you would think before you really start damaging the bearing.
this?
Yeah.
Would have been nice.
Oh, no, looks good. Just feels like a decent box.
Spin around.
Nice toolbox add-on. You push them in hard,
Oh, okay.
like so they won't flop open, like if you're moving the box around, and you lock it.
Okay, I was like, why is it
Yeah.
so hard?
Yeah, but most of the time you just close them like that.
Yeah.
But if you want to push them in to where they won't pop open, so there we go. It'll hook right onto the side of the toolbox that I got and raise the capacity. It's nice. I'm gonna put it. Oh no, I'm gonna put it on. Yeah, better put it on the other side. I need you to, if you would, hem that up for me. Let's see how long. Just shorten it up. You could just take it off down here.
Or I could just sew it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it apart at all. I
Yeah.
could just like take it and fold it like this. Overlap it, kind of.
Yeah.
Because nobody would know.
I would know.
Shut up.
I don't care.
But it would be
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, because I would like to be able to
Yeah.
see how much. Okay, can you tap that down, or can you hold that in really?
Right spot you
Yeah,
want?
hold it in real hard right there.
Oh, can I let go of this thing?
Just here, you push the down button.
Okay.
Just barely, just real fast. Just punch the button, and let off, please. Oh, okay.
Is it real loud?
Yeah, go ahead, let go. Let it all the way down. That's it. It's easy enough. I need to loosen that clutch up in that hoist.
Say hi. See, I've gotten bigger from the first one.
Yeah, in
Feels
1
got
week.
More bushier.
Little chestnut. He's already grown in just 1 week. He's a cutie.
He's getting playful now.
Yeah. So these toolboxes are surprisingly well made. All the tracks line up really good. I mean, I've had most of the drawers out of this thing just messing around with it, looking at the construction of it. And it's surprisingly good. I couldn't be happier with this thing. Even the side box that I just got, which is awesome. And they had this thing in stock, which is, just like this, kind of unheard of because they don't keep them in stock. Even I just took the ticket up there because they have these boxes on display. Then they have a sleeve with the tickets on it. You can take it up to the register and you can pre-order the box, because these things are so big, they can't keep them in stock. The stores aren't big enough. So just for fun, I was like, well, maybe I'll get lucky. And I took one of the tickets for the red side box up to the register, and I said, do you happen to have this in stock? And she looked at me and smiled, and she said, we don't keep those in stock, but I'll check. Sure enough, she checked, and she's like, what? You know, I can't even believe it. And she says, I work here, that we have that in stock. So just got lucky, basically. And that's nice. You'd be surprised how quickly you run out of space with even a box this size. So this box full of the smaller drawers, you know, mostly bigger drawers, one little side of some smaller ones, but this extra storage, nice. And that's big enough, right? I'm not going to add on to this thing anymore. Not boxes anyway. So here's a look at my old toolbox, literally falling apart. So it was time for an upgrade. I've had this thing ever since it was junk when I got it. Somebody gave it to me because it was garbage. But I've had it since I was probably 18. So just like every oil fitting on this machine, at one point somebody's pumped grease in all of them, basically. And the two here on the head, they're no different. They're completely packed full of grease and clogged up. Now, these are made to take a light oil, and all the grease does when it's pumped in there is just clog up the works. And these fittings transmit oil back inside the head via a tube to some critical bearing or bushing that can't be reached by just a regular oil can and spout. So if we want these to ever work again, we're going to have to tear into this thing and get those cleaned out, because otherwise, you know, they'll just not work, and we can't have that. So here's the two fittings. I've already loosened them, and they are completely packed full of grease. And it goes back, let me pull this tube out, through this tube here, back underneath the main drive pulley there. So I've just got some aluminum here. I gotta grab this brake lever and get it off. I'm assuming that it just screws, yeah, it just screws off. Because I want to take off this top part of the casting. This thing's real dirty in there anyway, so it needs good cleaning. Completely packed full of grease. So now this can come off. All right. All right, so I gotta get this pulley off of here. Never had one of these off, although I have had this cap off. I believe that's how you oil the spindle bearings. And you are right in my way as well, but that's okay. I want you to see this. Not much room for us both up here on this lift. Anyway, there's 2 wicks down in here. This is an oil reservoir. See, this has an O-ring. It's kind of dark up here. O-ring here and on the outside. So you just fill this with oil. Those wicks pull that down, I believe, to the spindle bearings. And you just screw this back on. So, the only thing that I can see that holds this pulley on is this, what looks like a nut here. You can see it has holes in it. I don't have a pin spanner, so I'm going to have to make something up. There is a pin that just about fits it. This is an 1/8 inch pin. These are metric holes. I don't have any metric pins. So hopefully that will work. Let's see if we can maybe get some big channel locks up there to open it up. So to get this out of here, I'm going to try this here. I just picked up this set of channel locks from Harbor Freight, actually. They're Doyle brand. Surprised at how nice they actually are. $28 is what I paid for those. I did not have a set this size. So I'm glad I bought them, because otherwise wouldn't have anything to get this off with. Hopefully it will come off. Brass in an attempt to not screw it all up. And I got the brake lever back in. Oh, wow, that come right loose. Okay. Is that gonna... Okay. Those wicks just go right to there, and they put oil in that slot. There's 3 wicks. Having this toolbox is just amazing to me, because now all my tools actually have a spot where they can go. It's so much easier to find what I'm looking for, because my other box was falling apart, literally, and it was way too small. Man, I don't want to break that. So this not only is a pulley, but it's a brake drum as well. There's some brake shoes in there that, when you pull that handle, come out and contact the inside of this pulley. And hopefully I can get this off without breaking it. It's just keyed on there. No set screw. It has to just pop off. Maybe if I put a little heat on that, just to open it up a bit. Just a little heat. Wow. Made all the difference. Heat is your friend, as long as you don't use too much of it. So there's the underside of the drive pulley. You can see they've balanced it. And it's also, like I said, the brake drum. See, it's just like a brake drum on a car. I'll show you the brake pads up there in just a second because I got to take them off in order to get to the 2 spots that I need to get to. So here's where the oil for the spindle bearings comes through. And it's just simply keyed on and held on with the nut we took off. So you can see the brake shoes here. We got 2 of them, just like you would see in an automobile. And when you pull the handle, it opens them up, presses them against the inside of that drum. You can pull it or push it, right or left, whatever you want to call it. It works just the same. So I already got one of the 2 springs off. So those will come off, and then I need to access these 2 covers here because those are what's clogged up with grease. So the 2 oil tubes went into a hole in each side of these caps. These are just bearing caps for the ends of these counter shafts that allow you to switch from high range to low range. So we're in high range there, which is a 1-to-1 gear ratio. Let me swap that over. And now we are in, I think it's 8-to-1 gear ratio. So that's all it is. But still, those have to get oil on them, or else over time, you know, those bearings would burn up. I can already tell you that this one has been dry for a while. I can see it on the spline shaft there, because not only does it oil this bearing here, that oil drips down onto the spline shaft that this gear moves on. So, you know, it does double duty there. Man, I thought I lost that one. Alright, he's gonna come off here. Wow, yeah. Full of grease. Same here. There's some of the grease that I blew out of the small tubes. Just come out like a little snake. So I just used a little pipe cleaner to push through all these tubes and try to push the grease out of the end, and then washed them out with some solvent. Did the same thing on the 2 caps as well. What little bit of grease that's in the bearings that are left on the head of the milling machine, that'll get diluted as you put fresh oil and stuff in it. It'll work its way out. But putting grease where it's not designed to go causes a lot of work, and it's a shame, but that's the way it goes. And I would have to tear this machine down no matter what, having to rebuild it or not, simply because it's had grease put in it. So I'm sure a lot of you guys already use these. I've been using them for quite some time. Never mentioned them, but they're awesome. A box of these lasts forever. I've been using these long before I even started tearing down this shop. But I went through 2 boxes between the time that I started tearing down this building and now. So that's how long these last, and I use them a lot. You know, they say lint-free. That's not absolutely true. They don't fall apart when they're wet, which is great, and they're really strong. So, surprisingly strong. So try those out if you're interested. They're worth the cost, I'll say that. Wow. Pretty nasty. So that's a relatively intricate setup for just a power down feed. A lot going on in there. So like you'd expect after 40 years, that grease is starting to separate. It's not doing as good a job as it would if it was fresh grease. So while this is apart, I'd really like to pull all that out of there, not do a spot clean on it, but pull the bulk out of there, replace it with some new fresh grease. But I'm going to have to contact the manufacturer if I can, see what they recommend, what type, and how much to put inside of this head. Worst case scenario, I just pull out, all that I can, weigh that, put that amount back in with a little extra from what I've lost. I'm going to have to do the same thing with the upper part of the head as well, because it's 40-year-old grease that needs replaced. So, but I'm going to have to stop on this week. I've got other things that I have to do, unfortunately. So I got a relatively quick lathe job that I got to do. 304 solid stainless steel blind flange for 4-inch pipe that I got to make for a custom application. So let's write the program and then we will get this in the lathe. What's he doing?
He's got his belly full. He wants to eat. Hey, Chestnut. Hey, come on. Come out of the jacket, please.
Because it's pretty warm in here. I think I'll stay. Look how big his tail has gotten in just no time at all. So this should be a relatively straightforward machining job other than the fact that it's stainless, and that can make things a little tough. But all we need to do, 1/2-inch hole all the way through. Everything inside of the seal surface here is going to be dished out. We're going to have a 3/8-inch radius that runs up to the seal surface here, and we're going to go down about half the thickness of this flange. We're going to create a pocket, basically, for liquid to gather. Now this is a 150-pound class flange. It's only going to be exposed to 2 bar in this application that's going to be put in, or 29 psi, so low pressure application, but that's what we need to do. So I'm going to put a couple marks on here just so I don't make any mistakes, and then we'll take it over the lathe and start making some cuts. So because this is stainless and can be a little tough, I'm going to pilot drill it. Just going to take it easy. Try not to let that drill rub. So it'll work hardened. Stainless is once you get cutting, you got to keep the pressure on and keep it cutting. It seems to work out better. So there's the tool we're going to try, just a 3/8 radius carbide insert. So we'll try that. We'll see how that runs. We may have to hog out some material first with the standard holder. So this first cut, actually all the cuts were 25 thousandths of an inch depth of cut, and I was really expecting this tool to chatter quite a bit, given it's such a large radius. There's a lot of tool in contact with the work here, and surprisingly, it worked out pretty well. I'm trying some of the anchor lube, see if that helps with the finish or the smoke. So far, so good. I think it looks all right. It's plenty good enough for what we need. Still got to go quite a bit deeper, but yeah, it's going to work as long as that continues. This anchor lube is working pretty good. All right. That's it. That looks pretty good. A little bit of chatter in the bottom of that radius, but that is a big radius in stainless, right? To cut all at once. I'm very happy with that. So that looks perfectly fine to me. There is no requirements on surface finish on this thing. It literally is just a void. So that will be perfectly fine. I'm surprised it turned out as good as it is, considering how big that radius is. So let me show you what I've been doing in my spare time this week, which is very limited. This is the carburetor off of a Kawasaki engine that's on a zero-turn lawnmower that's out here. Mine belongs to my neighbor, and it had set for quite some time with fuel in it. It's never a good thing. Gummed up and won't run, so that's a little side job, along with a lot of other stuff that I've been doing this week. Let me show you how much progress that I've made working around the shop trying to get things straight. So I got the front left corner of the shop relatively straight. I spent 2 afternoons this week going through just trying to get everything cleaned and organized. This was by far the worst area of the shop. Now I did work on this a little in the past, but I finally decided just to go through and get everything at least really close to the way I want it. I'm still going to put cabinets up on the wall here. I've got some stuff that's just in storage underneath the welding bench for now until that happens. Got my grinders all cleaned up and over in their somewhat final spot. I'm also getting the cutter grinder lined out and the surface grinder lined out to get them hooked up, which is still, probably a couple weeks off. But all I like is this area of the shop right here in the middle. I'll turn the camera around and show you. So I can finally see the finish line, and I'm really close to being completely operational again. There's still a lot to do, but not near as much as what there was. It was somewhat overwhelming. Imagine every tool that you own being shoved over into a corner, covered in dirt, dust, and over a year of sitting unused, rust, and having to clean all that stuff, organize it, finding new homes for it because everything's changed. It's just been an amazingly large job that I'm glad that's coming to an end. Moved the cutter grinder out a little bit, kind of wiped it off. It's going to be pretty much in that location. Got to turn the surface grinder 90 degrees. Move the K&T a little bit. Obviously move my cabinets and stuff to their final position and hang some more cabinets. But it's getting really close. The major work is pretty much done. Now it's just final placement and power. So it's coming along. I've spent a lot of time this week just moving stuff around. So I don't know anybody who would say their shop is done. I know a lot of people whose shops are functional but still a work in progress, and that's kind of where I'm at, and probably where I will be for quite some time. But at least once all my machines are back working again, I'll be at the point that I was before the teardown of this wall and half the shop started, which will feel good. So that's it. Next couple weeks I'm going to focus on getting to that point, hanging the cabinets and hooking up these 2 machines. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my viewers, patrons, subscribers, anybody who's helped me get here, and I appreciate it. We all appreciate it more than you know. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
The birds fly south as the light leaves your eyes. Hold on to your dream. Oh, I know you wanna scream. Since the day you're born, you're just a flower on your own, waiting for the sun to blossom, hoping to break through.